Hello there, What Culture football fans. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, joined by Ewan Patterson to discuss, is Tiki-Taka football dead? This comes off the back of Spain being eliminated in a shock result against Russia yesterday. 1-1 after extra time. Russia winning 4-3 on penalties. Ewan, is this the death of Tiki-Taka football?
No.
There we go then.
Yeah.
Thanks for no. It was, but to me, like, you look at the stats. Spain had 1,137 attempted passes in 120 minutes. That is a new world record, and they didn't score a goal. Russia scored the goal for them.
I think the reason for this is I don't think Spain. This sounds completely weird. Like, you have some of the best passes in the world in that Spain team, but I'm not necessarily certain that Spain have the players to accommodate their own system, because they were playing Isco on the wing, and if you know who he's a central midfielder. He's not typically one you see. He's a creator. He's not necessarily one you'd see kind of bursting using pace to get behind or run at defenders or whatever. And Asensio, I thought, was brought in to the side to actually do that. But if you were watching the game as well, though Asensio is a winger, he was not running at any defenders during that entire match. He was coming back to midfield, asking for the ball to feet. And I think that's the main problem that Spanish side team had, is that there wasn't, just with the light there, there's not enough pace in that side. And I feel like if no one, you saw the difference immediately when Rodrigo came on. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because you look at the stats, and obviously it's kind of typical for a team playing Spain to not have a lot of the ball. Spain had 79% possession, but they only also had 9 shots on target, and they didn't attempt their first shot on goal till the 45th minute. I know they obviously had scored before that, but technically their first shot on goal wasn't until the 45th minute. And usually you'd associate teams playing Spain are ran all over the park, and that's when usually, after say 60 odd minutes, it starts to tell, the space starts to open up, people start to switch it off, and that's when they produce. But Russia covered 91 miles to Spain's 85.
I wonder why that is.
Which is obviously a lot more, but it didn't seem to be telling in the game. Do you think maybe it's less the death of Tiki-Taka football and more perhaps teams have figured it out? That seems to have been the case over the last, 6 years?
I think it is the case. So I know there was a lot of complaints in the punditry yesterday saying, Russia are being so negative to the host nation. It's like, well, no, you can be negative and it'll get you a result. Like, Russia are under no obligation to play attractive football. They are there to win the match. And if that is how, we already saw earlier in the tournament, Spain ran to roadblocks against it was Iran. They struggled in that same kind of set where Iran, they managed to get more of the ball, actually, Iran, in certain parts of that game, but they did have a rigid defensive, like 4-5-1 formation or something as well. So I think, I just think Spain haven't performed particularly well at this tournament, and yes, you're totally right, teams have alerted to that, and you
obviously you have a strategy is just sort of pack the midfield, not giving them a lot of space, as you said, try and force them wide, and like you said, with the lack of wingers, that'll play into it. And yes, Diego Costa is a great header of the ball, but if you don't cross it into him, then he can't really do a lot. Do you think teams now, like I say, have just decided not to get drawn into it? Because I think initially when we saw it in 2008 and 2010 and 2012, teams initially set up and went, right, well, we've played against this before, or we kind of know about what this is, having seen Barcelona do it, but now we'll try and not get drawn in, and slowly they do. Slowly players think, maybe I can just nick that ball, and that's when the spaces come. Whereas now, do you think teams just go, fine, have all the ball, because the stats don't lie. Yes, they had incredible amounts of possession, but in terms of raw chances, there wasn't that many.
Yeah, I think this Russia side under no illusion that they probably couldn't match Spain beat for beat or pass for pass or whatever, because they can't. And I think them wising up to that, it is an evolution of the game, perhaps. But again, I think it kind of comes down to the fact that the Russia are under no obligation to kind of play attractive football. They are to win the game first and foremost. And if they have to do that tactic, then I don't necessarily think it means that Tiki-Taka football you won't see it anymore. I just think that perhaps Spain didn't have the right players to accommodate the system they wanted to.
One thing I was going to say is, was yesterday Tiki-Taka football? Because Tiki-Taka football is, passing, runs and movements, quick 1-2s, those sorts of things. This just seemed to be sort of passing for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Backwards, sideways, yes, they did that a lot, but then they eventually opened up space. They had Xavi and Iniesta in their prime, and maybe this is another issue of they haven't got those same sorts of players just yet. to play in that system. But it did seem to be just, well, let's just keep the ball and then we don't have to risk anything. Also, that was getting mentioned on commentary.
I can't remember. Is Thiago injured? Because was he injured?
I think so.
Yeah, that would explain why he's not in that midfield then. But I kind of do think that Spain's midfield, they seem to lack ideas until Iniesta came on, and even then, there weren't enough people making any runs for him to really accommodate that kind of movement. I mean, we saw that wonderful goal earlier in the tournament with Isco, where it was the quick passing between David Silva and him, and he got an own goal and he scored a fantastic goal. But I think, this is a credit to Russia's defensive nous in a way. I think you look at the way that Spain probably could have broken the lines maybe a little bit more quickly, but I don't know. It was so lethargic. It was so they just looked bored. It was like, I think we've harped on about Isco quite a bit. You know, he's not a winger, but he was in that role, and you could see every time he kind of he found himself in that space, going back into his more natural position. So I don't know.
Mentioning Isco there's a really interesting stat that I read. Isco made 132 passes in that game, 12 of which went forward.
Yeah.
For a player in that position, like you say, that is incredibly disappointing. Does it also come down to players not necessarily wanting to take a risk, not wanting to be the person to lose the ball for Spain?
Potentially, but I think the players that Spain have, it shouldn't be a mentality issue. Like, you're surrounded by some of the best names in the world, and if you've got support, if you're on the wing, you have two fantastic fullbacks covering behind you in Nacho and Jordi Alba. So I don't understand why necessarily Isco should have that fear when he plays, because we have seen him make these runs before, but at the same time, he is not a winger. He's a centre midfielder, and potentially Spain should have looked to deploy a different system to better accommodate the players they have, because they have so many midfielders. But I don't know.
Question marks maybe over the substitutions as well in that game. With you take off in a game where you're not being, it's not like it's when Russia get the ball they're suddenly really threatening. You take off Costa and bring on Aspas. Why can't you have both playing in that team?
And that's the interesting part I was going to raise to you as well, because when Rodrigo came on and there was a little bit of link-up play between Aspas and Rodrigo, Spain looked infinitely more appealing. It's funny to me as a Liverpool fan, obviously, because if you remember Iago Aspas in the Premier League, didn't do too much, but he has been banging them in I think it's Celta Vigo he plays for. He's been doing really well in Spain, and I think it would have made more sense potentially to have those two strikers up together, because Costa did look very lonely at times up there. So I don't know. I feel that you're totally right there, and again with the pace that Rodrigo injected into the side as well, I think they got it completely wrong.
Looking forward for Spain, we saw them win three competitions. They won the Euros in 2008, World Cup 2010, Euros in 2012, and then subsequently now have gone out of three tournaments early. Do you think there'll be a change of plan for Spain going forward, the future for them? Because obviously Lopetegui had sort of instilled a kind of adaptation of Tiki-Taka. We saw it against Portugal, which is the big hoof forward.
Yes.
Do you think that's maybe going to be integrated more as we look forward, and we're going to see a different Spain in the Euros in 2 years' time?
Yes, I mean, I totally think so. And if you look at the talent that are coming through the Spanish national side, they're never short of incredible attacking talent. I think like Sal and Ceballos, I think he plays for Real Madrid as well. I think they've got plenty of players that you'll see the Spain side just get stronger and stronger. I do think the management issue probably didn't help, getting rid of the coach like a day before the tournament, not really a good idea. But I think going forward they will probably retain that style. I do think it's a matter of personnel. They need people who aren't going to play with fear, and people who feel confident enough to run at defences, like Rodrigo did. Again, another name who we probably wouldn't associate with, being Spain's last hope in the last round of 16 in a World Cup qualifier. But whatever, I don't know. Spain will probably continue. They'll improve, learn, all that jazz.
Get Big Sam in. Hoof it forward to the big man. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think Tiki-Taka football is dead, or have oppositions just figured it out, or did Spain just not really perform on the day? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and you can check out more of our recent videos here. My thanks to you, and thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Bye.